Hi, welcome to the channel. This is Beyond Authentic Health and Beauty. My name's Lisa and today we are very much on the beauty side of things. So I wanted to do a full face video for you. Now, if you don't know what this is, I literally do a full face for one particular brand. Now, seeing as January is budget month here on Beyond Authentic Health and Beauty, we are concentrating on a budget brand. So for you today, I have a full face of e.l.f. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this today is I'm going to put some pictures on screen just here of the products I'm using, and also the price points should be on the screen somewhere down here. Now, before I get any further into the video, I don't know whether you can see it, I've got some doggies just sat here. These are our fur babies and they're going to make noise, they're going to snore, they're going to have drinks, they're going to eat food, whatever they decide to do. They might even play, but whatever they do, there will be some noises in the background. Now, I totally understand if that is very distracting for you, if you are somebody who doesn't like those sort of noises in videos. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is where we film, and these are our babies, and I wouldn't ask somebody with children not to film with them sort of in the background. So likewise, it just happens that our children have 4 legs. So if that is a problem, then I totally understand if you want to skip off of this video, but there will be a few noises in the background. Okay, so I didn't have a full face of e.l.f. products. Now I am on a low buy this year again, so I really don't anticipate buying many products, but just in between Christmas and New Year I did take advantage of the sale at e.l.f. and I actually picked up a 12-day calendar. Now this is one of their advent calendars, because there were a couple of items that I was looking at getting from their website anyway that were in the advent calendar, and it worked out financially. It was probably better to pick up the advent calendar, get the items I wanted plus a few extras for less money than just getting the items I wanted on their own. So some of these items would have come from the advent calendar. I've also got other things like the palettes. I've got several palettes here, but like this one you've seen me use before. This is probably a year old now. It's the Earth and Ocean palette. So I don't know whether I'm going to use that one today or one of the bite-sized ones. I really don't know. We'll see sort of where it takes us, really. So I'm going to start today with the Luminous Putty Primer. That's the lid. This is what it looks like. Now, I haven't actually used this before. Oh, I've just completely demolished it. Oh, I was about to say it's got a firmer consistency than I was expecting. But the minute I put any pressure on it, it really isn't that firmer consistency. In my head, because the surface level, there was quite a bit of surface level tension, so I thought it was like almost like a clay kind of consistency, but it isn't. It is just like a mousse. So I don't know how much I'm going to need. I don't know whether that's going to be enough. We shall see as we go through the video. I tell you what, I'm also just going to pull my hair up and off my face just while I do my foundation steps, my base steps. So there we go, just clip that back. So then let's just see. Now actually there's not a lot of, that's not actually a lot of primer that ended up on my finger, because I did put some of it back here in the component. But yeah, so this is a really interesting, it's got no scent to it whatsoever, but it's a really interesting texture. Now I haven't used this before. Ah, right, okay. Okay, I can see, well, this was in an advent calendar. I don't know whether it's going to be picking up on camera, but this has micro glitters in it. Now, it's not bad, and I don't mind micro glitters. But that is very, very sparkly. Probably isn't picking up on camera, but in person, I look like one of the Cullens out in daylight. I know, right? I keep giving this Twilight reference. You would think I was a fan of the films. I think I've only seen the first one, and the one where they have the big fight that isn't a fight, it's all a dream or something. I don't, and the scary CGI baby one, I don't know if that's in the same film. Can't remember. I just remember they glow in the dark now. Or no, they don't glow in the dark, is it? It's all sparkly and glittery or something. But yes, it's not my vampires. You know what I mean? Give me Kiefer Sutherland in a with a blonde updo any day. You know what I mean? Okay, so it's a Luminous Putty Primer. Now, I don't know whether this is supposed to have details. It probably had details on the packaging, which I've thrown. So it doesn't actually tell me anything about it on the back. So yeah, there we go. It's a very sparkly primer. So, I mean, it feels quite nice on my skin. It has sunk in really nicely, but it has left a sheen of glitter. Let's move on. I've got the e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation. This one is in the shade Pearl. So now I have had this for a little while. Yeah, I don't remember whether I liked it or not, to be honest. But as I say, I have had this for a while, so I'm hoping it still functions well. Yep, it's got no bad smell to it. It smells absolutely fine. So we'll go ahead and use this. And I'm using the beauty sponge. Look at the state of that. Look, it's all been beat up. This has actually been wet and wrung out as well. So in the componentry in the advent calendar, it was absolutely mangled. It was sort of held in place really firmly. But you know, it's a really soft beauty sponge actually, and I do like the softer ones. I know some people prefer like the beauty blender where it's a bit of a firmer texture. I quite like the softer ones. I don't know why. So yeah, just applying the foundation. I don't remember what this foundation was like at all. I think the fact that it's still in my collection means obviously I haven't binned it, so it's not one that's going to be horrendous for me. I think I might have picked this up last year actually. At the beginning of last year, because I do tend to try, if I'm going to try new products, I do tend to pick them up in the sales between Christmas and New Year, or possibly in the Black Friday sales, just because if it's something that I'm not sure whether I'm going to like, it seems to make sense to get it at a massive discount, just in case it ends up going in a declutter 6 months later, you know what I mean? So this is a little bit pale for me, but I'm sure we can make it work with a little bit of bronzer. Also, because it is winter here in the UK, you know, my skin is quite pale anyways. I must say, a couple of pumps, it is going a long way. It is a buildable foundation, I think, so it's not a full coverage. If you like a full coverage foundation, this is probably not going to be it. But looking on the looking on camera, let me just see if I can alter my lighting. Hang on a second. There we go. That gives us slightly more, that looks slightly truer to how it looks in person, to be honest, with that slightly more yellow light. So yeah, so that's matching what I'm seeing in real life. I've got to say, now it's on my skin, it's actually looking really nice. It's giving me that same sort of glowy radiance that the Dream Radiant foundation from Maybelline's giving me. Now, I don't know whether, when I first tried this, whether I liked it or not. I honestly can't remember. But what I will say is that in the last year, I really concentrated on skincare, certainly for the first sort of up until about September. I did kind of fall off the wagon a little bit, but then back in November, I did start my skincare regime again. So I've been solidly on that for a couple of months now. And my skin is just looking the best it's ever looked. So this is possibly why, if I didn't like it so much when I first tried it, now it's actually feeling really nice and comfy on my skin. So actually, this is one I will stick around for now. So spoilers, when I do my foundation collection and declutter, this one's going to be staying. But yeah, I actually really like how that is looking. Oh, just a bit of fluff on my eye. I like how that is actually looking now. Come on, get off, get off. Come on. I'm just moving this all the way around my skin. Come on. There we go. It's off. So for concealer, I found this in my collection. It just says on it conceal and highlight. So I don't know exactly what this is. I thought I had the camo concealer. That's an e.l.f. concealer, isn't it? But maybe I've decluttered it at some point. I don't know. I can't remember. Fibro brain. But we're just going to use this one as is. So again, I will put some details on screen. I will say the colour on this is absolutely fine. It's a nice pale one. It is a very thin, watery consistency though, so I wonder just how much sort of coverage it's going to give. But there we go. I've put quite a bit on because it is so watery. And tap that in with a finger. I mean, once you start tapping it in, it feels absolutely fine. Unfortunately, I don't have a setting powder by e.l.f., so I have just reached into my Project Pan stash, and I've got my Makeup Revolution loose setting powder, so I am just going to apply a little bit of that. And mainly just applying it to the areas that I've put concealer. And then what I'm going to do, once I've applied it with a brush, is I'm going to take just a little bit of powder on my beauty sponge, and I'm just going to tap that into place as well, just under the eyes, just to help set that down fully. I really want to give the concealer as much of a chance to do its thing and not to crease as I can, especially at the moment, because with this light it's not really showing, but I haven't had a lot of good sleep recently, so my under eyes are looking particularly troublesome. But anyway, I don't have an eye primer from e.l.f., so I've dipped back into my Team Project pan and I've picked up the Revolution Pro Eye Elements Primer in the shade Core. Now this one is very old, but this is a dupe for the MAC Painterly Paint Pot. As I think I said in the Team Project Pan video, this is a very old product, but it's also one that I know works. So it is a little bit dry now. I am going to try and get some Duraline online and sort of wet it down a little bit and sort of rehydrate it just a little bit. But for now, this should still do the job. Yeah, look at that. It's absolutely fine. It is just a little bit dry and a little bit stiff to get out the pot. But as a primer, it's kind of what you want, isn't it? You want it to be, you don't want it wet, but you want it to be grippy enough to grip your shadows. That's absolutely fine. So then on to eyeshadow. Now I do have a few e.l.f. eyeshadow palettes. So for eyeshadows, I've got several to choose from. I've got two of the bite-sized ones. I think I have some more knocking around, but I can't find them. And the problem is because these are so small, they can fall down the back of things really easily. I'm sure I had more than these. Anyway, I've got the Berry Bad one. This one came in the advent calendar. I've also got the jalapeno one. This is one of my favorite color stories. I've used this a lot, actually. You can see the green and the gold. It's just absolutely fabulous. I've got the Earth and Ocean palette that I showed you earlier, and I've also got the Mad for Mattes palette. This is in the shade Nude Mood. It's a very, very, very basic sort of nude palette. It's, you know, it's a bit boring, but if you're using that, you can kind of mix it with the bite size, so it's useful. But then I also have this monstrosity. Now this is one that I picked up from their website, but it's very, very, very rubbish. It's not right. I was about to say it's not rubbish, but it is. It's very, very cheap. The componentry is very cheap. It's got the bottom tray, which has got your face products, and the top tray has got eyeshadows. But the eyeshadows are, it's just, look at that. That is such a boring, boring palette to me. Lots of neutrals with 3 pops of blue and a green. I mean, just talk about boring and completely uninspired. Well, technically three spots of blue and 2 greens, because there's a lime green there as well. I just think it's so dull, so boring. It's not something I ever reach for, and probably this is going to get decluttered. If anybody watching this, if any of my spanners, the moderators, would like a palette, would like this, then just let me know. Equally, if any of my regular subscribers, if you want it, drop me a message. I might just send it you, because like I'm probably never going to use it again, because if I'm reaching for palettes, I'm looking for stories that are going to inspire me, like this one. Like this has got so many different options. You can stay here with the green and golds and browns, a bit like this one, or you can really kind of mix and match the greens with the orange, greens with the blues. You can really do like sort of stay on this side to get a really deep sort of grungy blue. It's just this grungy kind of color story, which I really love. And I think today, what shall we do today? Shall we go with the blues? I haven't given the blue side an awful lot of love, so we'll go with the blues today. And we're going to use the brush that again came in the little advent calendar. So this is just a little blending brush by e.l.f. I did have a set of the e.l.f. brushes somewhere. I think some of them, there might even be a couple in here. Some of them are in my brush pot and some of them are to be cleaned. So they're all over the place. So I haven't got my full set of, like you can get a 12 set of e.l.f. brushes for about £10-12 I think they were, and they're not bad brushes actually. They're not bad eye brushes at all. But anyway, let's go on with the look for today. I'm going to use this nude palette as well as my transition shades. So I want to use this fairly pale one here right on the end, and it's sort of my skin tone but just a little tiny bit darker. And the only reason I'm using this is just to put a little bit of a transition between where we've laid down the primer and actually onto my bare skin. So yeah, I'll try and remember to stay at that angle so you can actually see what I'm doing. I do have my budget colour switch here as well, just to clean my brush off as I'm going. Right then, so I'm going to go in with the blues. I'm going to start with this shade here, which is Oasis. It's the pale blue shade. It's almost a lilac actually. It's that sort of pale. And just remember, there's a tip. Wherever you start with your eyeshadow, so wherever you place your brush for the first time, that's where most of your product is going to go. So even if you are using a pale colour for your transition, what I like to do is always start on my outer corner where I know my darker colours are going to be, and then kind of move it across, because that way I haven't got a sudden whack of colour where I'm putting the brush down for the first time. So then I'm trying to, and then I have to try and blend that out. That's Eddie with his squeaky toy. So because of my hooded eyes, I will need to take the colour up just ever so slightly higher. But again, what I tend to find is that when I do my eyes, I have my eyebrows really, really highly raised. And then when I drop them down, that's where I need to put the shadows. So again, a little tip, if you are somebody with hooded eyes, kind of get your position and then drop your lid. And then again, you kind of, sorry, drop your lid to get the position, so you know where the colour needs to go, and then just raise your brows again if you need to use that extra space if your hood is creasing. As you can see on me, that blue is looking almost grey. It's a real sort of periwinkle shade. I really like it. I think it's a really nice transition shade. Okay, next up I'm going to go in with this one here, which is called Abyss, and this is that sort of, I always call it a denim blue, you know what I mean? It's just that sort of deeper blue shade, and I'm not going too ham on the colour because I do want to be able to build it up. Again, starting on the outer corner because that's where most of the shadow is going to be placed on the brush. And I'm just going to run this along the crease line. And then I'm just using what's left on the brush just to slightly blend it up and into that transition shade. I'm picking up the colour and doing the same cut on the other side. Just deepening it up on the outer corner, just because I know how I like my eyes to look. And then cleaning that brush off. I'm still using that same brush for all of this so far. I am just going to now blend that ever so lightly, take a little bit of the Oasis shade, that first shade, and then blend those two together just on that outer edge and just in the outer corner. Guess we're going for a slightly smoky grungy look today. This shade here is called Trenches, and this is a deep, deep, deep shade, almost a black. In fact, I think it might actually be a black. If not, it's like a super, super navy. And again, I'm just picking up the tiniest amount on the brush, and I'm just going to place that on the very, very outer corner, just like so. I don't want to go too dark. I don't want it to kind of completely muddy up, but I do just want to, you know, deepen that up just on the outer corner. And then, because I've used that colour, I'm not using anything else on my brush to blend it. So I'm taking all of that colour off. I don't want to have any excess shadow on the brush when I try and blend that out, because it's just going to turn grey and dark and black. So I really want to clean that brush down as much as I can. Now you can obviously find a clean brush and use a clean brush, but that should be enough with that colour switch just to properly remove that colour. And then I'm just literally, as you can see, all the way through this, I'm holding the brush at the very end, so I've got a very delicate kind of motion on the eye, and I am just tapping and swirling. So tap, 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 and then using the smallest of sort of circular motions, tap, tap, and swirl, tap, tap, swirl. So small circular motions. And again, because I've got very mobile skin, there's a lot of crepey skin on my eyes. It is a case of when I put the brush on and I move my brush, quite often the skin moves with it. So do just bear that in mind if you're like me and you've got sort of mid-40s plus skin that is a little bit crepey on the lids. Of course, if you're fortunate to be young or to have really firm eyelid skin, you don't need to do that. Now there is a little bit of fallout there, I'm just noticing, so I'm just going to sweep that away. Yeah, there's a little bit of fallout and it has just stuck down a little bit, so we'll deal with that in a minute. But for now, I think that that is looking quite nice and smoky. I like the sort of the effect on the outside. Now obviously my lids aren't finished, but I have put my brush down and I'm going to take my finger into the shade Underwater. Now this is a shimmer and it is a lovely deep blue. Let me just swatch it for you there. it's almost got a duochrome element to it because it does have a slight shift under certain lights. So it's sort of blue, but I don't know whether you can see there. Look at this end, just there and just there. You can see it kind of goes almost brown. So I really like it. It's kind of just got that slight shift that gives it a little bit of an interest, you know what I mean? So I'm just applying this with my finger, and I'm being careful not to pack too much on because I don't want any fallout really. There's a little bit, in fact, there's quite a bit of fallout. That's not what I wanted, right? Okay, we do have some fallout, so maybe I should have done my eyes first. But we live and learn, we live and learn. I mean, I don't mind, I could always clean that up. But there we go. I do really like that colour. Look at that. It's giving me a proper grungy kind of blue element. But I'm going to go in as well with the shade Lagoon, which is this sort of bright blue shimmer here. And again, I'm picking a tiny amount up on my finger. And I'll tell you what, let me swatch it for you there so you can see that. Look at that. It's bright, it's blue, but again, on its own, it's not hugely impactful. But if I place that on the back of my hand, look, over the there you can see that's giving it that blue shift. Right, so I'm just taking this, I'm just putting it on the inner corner, just like so, and just to give me a little hint of that blue back in place. And I am going to have to clean up my under eye. I really should have done this before my foundation, but as I say, we live and learn. And then I'm going to use this other shade Siren, which is almost this purpley shade just here, and I'm going to just put a little bit of that next to that blue and kind of use that to blend in with this deeper shade that's on the outer corner. So just to kind of give it a little bit of a transition, so just pack it over like that. It isn't really showing too much on camera, but in person I can actually see that light blue just on that inner corner, then it goes a little bit darker here, then into that blue, and this one is just that, it's just giving me that transition to get it a little bit darker, so it's not as sort of, it's not like a cut edge between the pale blue and the darker blue, which is what I want. Right then, let's see what I can brush away, and let's see how much cleanup I need to do. And I'm just taking that off, and then just there where it's smudged as well. And in fact, what I'm going to do is use this opportunity just to give me a really tight line there underneath. So there we go. Now I am going to need to go back in with my concealer. We used to call this a cut and shut. Now what that basically means, it's named after a process where back in the day, second-hand car salespeople would take two cars that were written off, and they would basically say if the front end of one car had smashed into the back end of another, but they were both the same make and model, they would chop off the front car that's damaged, chop off the back of the other car that's damaged, and weld the two together and sell it as a whole car. It was incredibly dangerous, and now it's properly illegal. But back in the day, people got away with it, but it was called a cut and shut because you literally cut the end off and shut the two together. So if you ever hear me talk about my makeup's gone a bit wonky, I need to do a cut and shut, that's literally what I'm referring to. It's kind of like taking the little bit off that's damaged and repairing it by kind of putting a patch in place. But I just call it a cut and shut. Now, I do know, I have watched other YouTubers where they've had issues like this in the past, and then they say, oh, I'm just going to go and do my mascara, and they come back and everything's cleaned up, and they don't show you how they do the cleanup, which is great. But I really think it's important that if you are showing somebody a look or a tutorial or a full face video, like where there is a mistake or where there are issues, I think it's important to show people how to correct them. Because it's all well and good, you know, these amazingly multi-million subby beauty gurus having all the knowledge. But if you're watching and you want to know, oh, well, how did you just fix that? And they skip past that and say, oh, I've just cleaned up under my eye. Well, how? How did you do that? Like, what was the process? So yeah, if I do huge areas like that, I do try and I do try and keep it in as much as I can to show everybody kind of the process of fixing things, really. Right, so again, little touch of powder, and this time I'm not going in with my beauty sponge or a brush. I'm actually using a puff puff. So this is just a, you know, one of the sponge puff puff applicator things, and I'm just folding it to get a really nice crisp edge, and I'm just taking just the small amount of powder that I've put into the lid, so a tiny bit on there. I'm just tapping it off so there's not a lot of excess, and I'm just going to press this into place, and in that way hopefully it won't be noticeable. There we go. Hopefully it won't be noticeable then that I've had to go and do a cut and shut. There we go. Now in person that looks all right. That looks all right. I'm happy with that. Okay, for under my eye, I'm just using my crown brush. This is the C160174. It's just an angled brush like this. So if you don't know, Crown is the brand that originally made Morphe brushes, or allegedly still makes some Morphe brushes, and they are identical to the most part, except Crown have got a C on them and Morphe have got an M, so the numbers start with a C or an M. However, I have had Morphe brushes that start with a C, so they are literally just a Crown brush stamped with Morphe. Allegedly. I'll put the disclaimer up there. So for under my eye, I'm using this blue here, this sort of vibrant shimmer. Now it is a deeper blue. It's similar to that sort of denim shade here, but it's just a little bit brighter. And I am very aware that this is a shimmer, so I am going to use this very, very sparingly, and I'm going to literally place this into place. But also, if you notice, I'm leaning forward and I'm going to be looking down. So the idea is anything that falls will fall down onto the mirror and not onto my cheeks. That's the idea from this bit. Maybe I should have done that earlier. So then here we go. Look down. Oops. It's really not a flattering angle, I'll say that. And I'm going to use this blue and really take it up like so. So up as a eyeliner. And I did manage to get some of that actually on my waterline, and it is just making my eye water just a little bit, but that's fine. And if you notice, I'm holding my brush much closer to the ferrule on this one because I really do want to have that control about where I'm placing the shadow. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just clean that brush off, and I'm going to go into this shade that we use. So this is Abyss, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that on each side of the brush. I'm just going to use this to smoke out that shimmer underneath. And how I'm doing that is just placing it ever so slightly lower than where I'll just place that shimmer shade. And again, if you notice, I'm turning the brush to make it easier for each eye. Wipe the brush off, and then I'm just going to, using the same brush, literally just move some of that shadow around just to give that slightly smoky look. Okay, so for mascara, I'm using the e.l.f. Waterproof Length and Volume Mascara. So you might think this is a strange order to do things in, but I'm now going to use the eyelash curlers that came in the advent calendar to curl my eyelashes. Now there is that one coat of mascara on. Now this is not something I recommend doing, but a lot of people will put a lighter or something with a little bit of warmth just on the metal edge there, not the rubber edge, but the metal edge, just to give it a little bit of warmth to help curl your lashes. Now, if you want to do that, that is something that a lot of people do. I'm not advocating for or against it. I'm just letting you know that that is something that some people do. So I just hold that and then wiggle slightly backwards and forwards. So because my lashes are really, really lackluster, I do find that having that layer of mascara on first really does help them curl. It kind of helps hold them in place. Otherwise, what I find is I'll do this, and then by the time I put mascara on, they're just all dipping down again. So for eyebrows, I'm using the gel and powder eyebrow kit. This is in the shade medium, and that's what the packaging looks like. This is what the product looks like. This is what the componentry looks like, and it really does feel like it's sort of almost NARS. It hasn't quite got that soft feel, but the packaging and the feel and the sort of like the curved edges, it feels very nice for an e.l.f. product. Now, this is something that's probably better if you have eyebrow hairs. As many of you will know, I have alopecia, and so my eyebrows are basically tattooed on, so I don't really have any eyebrow hairs, and when I do get the odd scraggly one growing back in, I just get rid of them. So yeah, so we'll see how this works for me. I'm literally just painting this directly onto my skin. Has it done? Oh, actually, in person it's a bit hard to see, but on camera that's given me quite a natural looking colour. Actually, I really like that. Are you all right, Eddie? He's just moving in behind me. He's decided that he's going to lie there now. Right, I'll move forward, give you a bit of space. Okay, I really like that. There is a lighter colour there as well, if you want to kind of blend the two together, or if you want to have that as a brow highlight. I'm not really going to use that any more than that. I am just going to dip back into the Mad for Matte palette, and I'm going to use this cool tone shade just here, just to slightly darken up and define my brows a little bit more. Now again, if you've got actual eyebrow hair, you won't need to do this. It's only because mine are tattooed on. So for blush, I'm using the e.l.f. Powder Blush Palette, and this is in the shade Light. I don't know if there are other variants. Again, if there's more details, I will put them down on screen. I'm going to use this one here. It's kind of quite a nice rosy tone, but I'm going to mix it with this one here because it's got a little bit of sparkle. So I'm just going to add those on as well. Now, I do like to take my blush. Wow, that's very pigmented. Right, okay. We're gonna wipe everything off our brush now and just use that. That's what we're gonna do. So take everything off the brush, and we're just gonna use what's on my face. I mean, we're just gonna blend that out. Right. Okay, we're going for that blushed look today then. Again, it's called Beyond Authentic. We are keeping it authentic on here, aren't we? Wowzer. Right, there you go. I mean, that doesn't look too bad now. Actually, it's looking quite... That's looking quite popping. I like how that's sculpting my cheek, my cheekbones. Right, I'm using the tiniest amount now, dipping back into those two, and I'm going to try and just copy the shape over here. So apply it and then kind of buff it into place. There we go. I mean, I do quite like that. It's given me a really nice sort of sculpted look, which is quite good really, because I don't think I've got a contour shade from e.l.f. Oh, actually, I'm forgetting about this. Oh, let's have a look. Let's have a look. What is in the bottom of this? Do I have a... Oh, there is a contour shade right then, and a bronzing shade. So we are gonna bronze and contour for the gods. Right, so I'm gonna use... Again, on camera, they look all very, very similar, but I'm actually going to use this one here as a contour shade. Do you know what? Maybe I will keep hold of this then as a contour palette or a face palette. I don't know. Let's see what we think. So I'm using that underneath where I've put the blush just to really, oh, look at that. It's carved out that cheek. Look at that. I mean, I started off saying I was going for a grunge look, but this is ending looking quite glam, isn't it? Quite like this, you know. I'm going to put a little bit just either side of my nose just to help sculpt that down. And then for bronzer, I don't know whether any of these are going to work for me. Possibly this one here. We're going to use it anyway. We're going to use it anyway. I wasn't planning on bronzing today, so there we go. A little bit. Oh, wow. Maybe I should have stuck to not bronzing today. I don't know. Right, okay, going back in with my big powder brush, and let's just see if I can kind of buff that out a little bit. I mean, you know... It's really deceiving. That palette is really deceiving. And the same with the blush. It picks up a lot more than you actually think it does. Right, tap all of that off. And then let's just try and kind of put a little bit of bronzer on. And again, I like to just bronze around my hairline. And then where I would naturally sort of catch the sun a little bit. But also I use the bronzer just to slightly contour So to warm up the rim of my face, if you like, the perimeter of my face, but also, I just need to even that up a little bit just there. But also I use it to help sculpt and just kind of a little bit of contouring going on. Not quite the full Kardashian look, but yeah. I mean, that is a very, very pigmented palette actually. So maybe I will keep hold of this for a little while. We'll see. So that's most of the face done now, apart from highlighter and lips. Now my highlighter, I have two options. I picked this up from the e.l.f. website, and it's the multi-dimensional face and body shimmer. Now this is basically just a glitter. It's basically what it is. If I can catch it in the light, I don't know whether that is going to catch. Let me just show you on a swatch, right? So there we go. It looks like a nice shiny, but you see, it is nice, but it is very, very glittery. So I am going to use the smallest amount of this. I'm just tapping in with my little highlighter brush, or the brush that I use for my highlighter. And I'm just going to tap that just around here. And I'm going to tap it a little bit on there. I don't know if that's showing up. Is that showing up? Not hugely on camera. There we go. It is just like adding glitter to my face. And it's really interesting because this has got the packaging on it. Oh, you're not going to be able to see. How can I show you the packaging? There we go. Look, if I put that behind, you can see the logo looks sort of all 70s. It's very disco ball-esque. It really is very disco. So yeah, maybe we're not going to use too much of that. I'm not going to use any more of that because you can definitely see it showing up, but I do like to have a slightly more matte highlighter to kind of brighten. So I'm going in with the Glow Gleam Beam palette, and I'm using the tiny amount of this one here. Now it is more of a matte tone, and it is slightly more sort of my skin tone, that one and this one here. So these two mixed together, the rosiness of this one and the sort of slightly yellow undertone of that one match really, really nicely. And I'm just going to place that over that other highlight, as you can see, and it's given me that highlight, it's given me that sort of slightly wet look, but it's not it's not just an all-out glitter. So I'm using that again, just a little bit, just there, a little bit just on the tip of my nose, and a tiny bit on my Cupid bow, and just a little bit there on my chin. What I'm also going to do is take that e.l.f. blending brush that came in the set, and I'm just going to make sure that is properly clean, make sure nothing's coming off it. Yeah, so there's nothing coming off on the back of my hand. And I'm going to use the highlighter again, this one here. So I'm just picking that up on the brush. I'm just going to use that as a little bit of a brow highlight, just under brow, just on both sides, just like that. So I'm just going to go back in with this original highlighter and use a tiny little brush. This is just a small domed brush. It's a Charles Fox brush. I'm just going to take a small amount and place it just on the inner corner. Just like that. Wow, that looks really cool. Yeah, see, that just instantly highlights the inner corner. I really, really like that. So then for lips, I've got a couple of options. I have a liquid lip and I have a bullet lip. Now the liquid lip is the Sheer Matte liquid lipstick. This is in a deep, deep berry tone. Let me just show you this one. So that's a sort of a really deep berry. It matched my jumper really well, actually. Or I've got this one, which is a bullet lipstick, which is in a very, very, very similar shade. It's just a little bit more sort of berry. That's the bullet and that's the liquid. So you can kind of see they're in the same sort of colour story. This is the one that came in the advent calendar. This is one that I've had for a little while. And I think because we are going out today is Wednesday, so we're going to do Slimming World today. So I do think I will use the liquid lipstick because I'm going to be wearing a mask later and I do need it to sort of stay put really. So here we go. I must say, I do like this formula. It's not my favourite liquid lipstick formula, but it's actually not bad at all, especially for the price point. So there were 3 other items that came in the advent calendar set that I haven't used today. One is a brow product. It's called the Wow Brow, and I think this is like a mascara type product. Yes, it is. So obviously I don't have any brow hairs, so I will pass that on to somebody else who can get some use out of it. Likewise, the Ride or Die lip balm. This isn't something that I am going to use. I tend to really like a liquid lipstick or something. If I'm going to use something on my lips, I don't tend to use balms. So again, I will pass that on to somebody else who can use it. But this I also picked up off the website separately. This item was a lip gloss, and I got this from the same collection as the shimmer. And this is one, again, it's the Retro Paradise lip gloss. And I really like it because it's blue. But if I put it over the top of the liquid lipstick, you'll see it's just got like a really nice hint of shimmer. Now, again, I've just discovered, as you can see, it does completely take off some of the liquid lipstick underneath. So just bear that in mind. I mean, yeah, not my favorite formula of gloss, but it feels fine and it works well on top. It just gives you that little sparkle. So that is pretty much the look done. I just need to add some setting spray, and luckily in the advent calendar there was one. It's the Makeup Mist and Set by Elf. This is sort of little mini size. It's perfect to stick in your handbag. Yeah, so let's just give this a couple of squirts and then we'll be done. There we go, that's the finished look. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. I will insert a photo just up here that I'm going to take a little bit later on this evening of a wear time, so you can see how this is held up. But for now, I think it looks really good, and I'm quite pleased with the results. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a massive thumbs up. That really helps me out here on YouTube with the algorithm. And if you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button and then ding your bell, change your settings to all, and that way YouTube should notify you each and every time I upload a video. And some people have said recently that they're not getting all of their notifications for when we're uploading. Now, if that is the case, just double check where you've got subscribed, double check the bell, make sure that is set to all. That's the only way you'll be notified each and every time we upload a video. Coming up is the mandatory narcissistic montage, but that is all from me. And as I always say, stay you, stay safe, stay authentic, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.